Hello everyone, my name is Brian Guevara. I am an application developer for DB Services, and today I'm going to be showing you how to integrate Stripe with FileMaker. This particular integration is going to be focusing on the invoicing aspect and some of the fundamentals of how to create REST API integrations within FileMaker, in this case using Stripe. So the first thing that we're going to be needing is going to be our Stripe API key. In order to do that, you're going to need a Stripe account. You can easily create a free account, and as soon as you create a free account, you're going to be put into test mode, which is going to allow us to test without having to use real data and real bank accounts. First thing that we're going to want to go and do is open this window, and this is going to give us essentially the keys that we're going to need for our API. Of particular importance to us is going to be this one, the test key, the secret test key. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and hide it again. And now we can go ahead and move this aside for the time being. So in our preferences layout, we're going to go ahead and simply paste in this key. And then from there, we are going to need to do a little bit of setup in the Stripe API dashboard. First, we're going to want to make sure that we have products. In our case, we have created 3 different colors as our products. They are colors labeled pink, green, and yellow. So our test store is going to be selling colors. The part that we're more interested about is this pricing ID. Essentially, this is going to allow us to get some of the pricing information for the API calls that we're going to be making later on. So we can go ahead and copy these. And then in our FileMaker application, we are going to go to products and create a few new products. In our case, you can put images in here if you want, but for the time being, I'm just going to name them. So pink, I'm going to add this here. And I'm going to set the price to the same price that I have here, so 500. I will also go ahead and grab the description. And I'm going to do the same for the other 2 products. So we're going to go ahead and grab the price for green. And we're going to go ahead and grab the description. And let's make sure that both of them have the same price. So 300. We're going to make the last one, which is going to be our yellow color. This one, we're going to copy the key one more time. And let's go ahead and give it the proper name. And also let's grab the description and make sure that we put it here. Again, one more time, we're going to want to make sure that our prices match. So 245. And that's essentially the entire setup for the products. Next, we're going to move on to customers. And in here, we also want to make sure we match whatever we have on our Stripe dashboard. In this case, we have 2 customers. One of them was created automatically through some tests, but the one we care about is this Jason Smith. On the right side here, you can see that we have a customer ID. And creating new customers is really simple. Once you're in the customer screen, you can just click the Add Customer button. That's going to allow you to enter different information about a customer. The more important parts are going to be the email address and the name, and perhaps if they have a default payment method. But that's of course not necessary, since we're going to be sending the invoices via email. What we want to grab though is this customer ID. And then back on our FileMaker application, we're going to want to create a customer. And let's go ahead and name him. So Jason Smith. Let's make sure we also give it the proper email. So let me just copy this from here. And one more time, let me copy the customer ID. Lastly, you can put whatever comments you want in this one. And this is just for the FileMaker application. So test customer. Good. So now that we have our customer, our product, and our dashboard, Stripe dashboard setup made, we're now ready to start making orders. So creating orders is really simple. You just click the plus button, and you can see here that we have an invoice ID, but don't worry about that for now. Simply select the customer you want to make this order for, and then start selecting your product and the quantities that you're going to want. So in this case, let's buy 3 pink, 2 yellow, and 5 green. Okay. So now we have a total of 3,490. And at this point, we would like to generate an invoice. So how do we do that? Well, we just click the generate invoice button. So let's go ahead and click that. And if all the setups have been performed correctly, you'll see that we now get this dialog here with the information that an invoice has been generated successfully. And at this point, we can also see the invoice ID that Stripe is using to track this particular invoice. Now, at this point, because we are in test mode in Stripe, no emails were sent to the customer. However, if we now come to the Stripe dashboard and go to the Invoices tab, we can see that we have an invoice made. And if you click on it, you can see more details. You can see that this is the invoice we just made. And you also have the option to just send the invoice. When you send the invoice, you can modify it a little bit if you want. And the customer is going to have the option to click on this button on the email to pay that invoice. And then Stripe is going to take care of managing all the payments for that. So let's send the invoice, and I'll show you guys in a little bit what that looks like. But yeah, this is what you get when you're in test mode. This is as far as you can take it. However, if you want to go ahead and enable this automatic invoicing, essentially, you're going to have to activate your account. So once you have an active account and you go to API keys for developers, you are going to get different secret keys here. And the way that Stripe determines whether it is going to use the live version or the test mode version is based on this key. So this key changes when you're in the different mode. So just be aware that if you want to use test data, make sure you're in test mode and grab the test key. But if you want to use the live data, you can just grab the live key. And that is also going to allow you to send the emails automatically. In a bit, we're going to go and start digging into some of the details of how this is made. But this script is made so that it will also query the REST API to send the email to the customer associated. So if you have the live version of the key, this email is going to be automatically sent to the customer. Of course, be careful with that since it is going to be live data that you're going to be working with. So now let me go ahead and show you what the generated invoice looks like. So this right here is the invoice, the email we got. So if you click this button, you're going to be taken to a payment session, so you can go ahead and start doing the payment. And you can also see that attached is a PDF copy of the invoice with all the information that you have put in for this respective company and everything. So just to show you what it looks like, if you click pay this invoice, you're going to go ahead and get this payment session. You can enter any payment information you want, do the payment, and get it completed, and Stripe is going to take care of all of that for you. So that's basically what we have for this file. Again, this is a very basic file, focus more on just the fundamentals on how to do this. So now let's dig a little deeper into how this is working. For that, we're going to need to go into the script workspace. And the first thing that you're going to see here is this Stripe folder with two scripts in it. The first one really is just so that we have global access to the Stripe key that we're putting on that preferences table. So you don't need to worry about that one too much. The next one is the more important one. I'm going to walk you through some of the things we're doing, but essentially in this first part, we're simply just grabbing the key, the secret key that we pasted on the preferences table earlier. We're grabbing the customer ID from the current order. And then we have a simple check to make sure that we're not creating an invoice for an order that already has an invoice. FileMaker allows us to create HTTP requests and therefore REST API queries through the insert from URL script step. To make things easy for us and for better readability, we have separated the CURL options and the URL into two different variables. I'm going to give you a better look at both of them. This is the URL that we're using to create the invoice. This is the endpoint. And this over here are the options that we're using. Really, it's not too difficult. You can see that as long as you format everything correctly, it's very manageable. And you have a lot of customizability in terms of what parameters you're passing and the information that you need to pass to every query. In this particular case, we just want to create an invoice. And it's important that whenever you do this type of script steps, you error trap. So in this case, we're just error trapping for the generic FileMaker errors. But it is important to remember that the API can also return an error. And it is important to check for those just to make sure that nothing has gone awry with that. Once you have determined that everything is good with the API call, we grab the ID of the newly generated invoice and we save it on the current record. The next step is to generate the line items for this ID that we just created. So, using the ID that we have stored here, we are going to pass some parameters to this other API call. And as you can see here, we're passing the invoice ID so that we can connect the line items to the invoice that we just made. Stripes API requires a few other things, such as the customer ID, price, quantity, and currency. Now, keep in mind that this price is not going to be an amount. This is the ID of the product price that we copied earlier. Again, we just error trap very meticulously here, and you can see that there's this second part of this else statement here, this if else statement that starts up here. And this part is simply so that if there already is an invoice ID for this order, then we don't want to just generate it again. We're just going to grab that ID and send the invoice to the customer. Now, of course, this is only going to work if you're not in test mode, but the same principles apply. We use the insert from URL step, and this is going to be the endpoint this time. And the CURL, this is going to be a little less complicated since there aren't as many parameters that we need to pass. Once we have that, we just call the endpoint with the insert from URL step. Make sure to error trap for everything and, well, notify the client or the user, and then lastly notify the user that the invoice has been sent successfully. So that's essentially how this API works and how this API integration can be made. Again, these are some of the very fundamentals. There's a lot of things that we could still do to this application that would make the flow of everything a little smoother and make this application overall a lot better. But these are some of the fundamentals, and you can go ahead and expand upon those, or you can reach out to us as well, and we would be happy to expand upon these type of applications for you. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.